Celeste had been missing for over a year, and her body so decomposed it took authorities days to identify her.
The car, which has Texas plates, is registered to the singer David.
She was 14 when she went missing. A cause of death right now is still pending.
He was 20 years old, a viral prodigy whose breakout hit Romantic Homicide turned teenage heartbreak into poetry and racked up hundreds of millions of streams. But on September 8th, 2025, police made a discovery inside the front trunk of his Tesla that changed everything. What they found was a severely decomposed body. The car belonged to David Anthony Burke, known to the world as David, and the victim was identified as 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Investigators say the remains may have been in the vehicle for weeks. Now the same name that once trended beside Romantic Homicide was trending beside Homicide Investigation. So how did a viral indie star go from headlining festivals to a death investigation? And why did his music obsessed with death, guilt, and confession suddenly feel like evidence? This is the story of how the David situation got darker, the unanswered questions surrounding Celeste's death, the eerie overlap between his art and reality, and the implosion of a career that once looked unstoppable. Rise and persona. Before the scandal, David Burke was the archetype of a digital-era success story, a self-produced artist who turned solitude into sound. Born in 2005, raised between Houston and the ever-expanding echo chamber of the internet, he built his audience from a bedroom armed only with an iPhone, a gaming headset, and a haunting sense of melancholy. His breakout moment came with Romantic Homicide in 2022, a minimalist, lo-fi anthem drenched in emotional dissonance. It wasn't polished pop, it was raw confession. His lyrics resonated across platforms like TikTok, YouTube, Discord, and other spaces. Fans called him the voice of digital heartbreak. Industry blogs praised his genius. He was the kid who made sadness sound cinematic. But behind the mystique was something else, a fascination with pain as performance. Even in early interviews, David described his songs as emotional crime scenes. He said he wanted listeners to feel like something terrible had just happened and you were there to watch. Discovery and timeline. To understand the magnitude of this case, you have to look at it more closely. The victim in question was Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She was 15 years old from Lake Elsinore, California, and was just another teenager trying to escape a house she no longer called home. Police call logs show that officers visited her home 11 times between 2024 and 2025, a pattern of instability that painted a clear picture. Her ex-boyfriend even told investigators that Celeste had a troubled home life. She talked about running away constantly like it was her only plan for the future. In September 2024, exactly 1 year before her body was found, a Nest security camera captured Celeste in a heated, racially charged confrontation with neighbors over a prank. And by May 2024, she was officially reported missing. This wouldn't be the last time her name appeared in a police report, but it would be the last time anyone saw her alive. The next major trace of Celeste's story wouldn't surface until August 27, 2025, at the booth of an abandoned Tesla. At that point, the car had been idle long enough to draw attention. The tires were chalked, a small routine act that would later become the cornerstone of a homicide timeline. By September 3rd, the city issued a 72-hour parking violation, confirming the car had not moved in nearly a week. A film of dust began to settle across the hood, the kind that only gathers when a vehicle hasn't been touched. 2 days later, on September 5th, the Tesla was towed from the Hollywood Hills to a local tow yard. There it sat sealed, baking under the sun for another 3 days. Then came September 8th, the day workers reported a foul odor leaking from the frunk. Inside, detectives found the decomposed remains of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the same teen reported missing more than a year earlier.
When this Tesla arrived at a Hollywood tow yard Monday morning, workers say the car was emitting a foul smell.
Forensic specialists estimated that Rivas Hernandez had been dead for several weeks before the discovery, meaning her body was likely concealed in the vehicle long before August 27th. The LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division confirmed it. Even without a cause of death, someone had placed her there. That act alone, concealment of human remains, is a felony. And yet, the car sat in public view for 11 days, unmoved, untouched, while its owner, David, was reportedly on tour. Victim and relationship. But this is where things get darker. Apparently, Celeste's mother told local reporters that her daughter had been, quote, dating someone named David, unquote, before vanishing in April 2024. She had never met him, never even seen his face, but the name stuck. Soon after, a neighbor near David's Hollywood Hills residence claimed they had seen the two together pretty regularly and assumed they were a couple. The images of a global music act and a missing 14-year-old began to collide, and the internet did what it always does, fill silence with speculation. A lot of damaging discoveries were immediately made. Friends of the artist told TMZ they were led to believe Celeste was 19, a USC student, and someone who moved through adult spaces with ease. She had, they said, attended age-restricted events, and nothing about her behavior suggested otherwise. "We thought she was grown," one friend reportedly told investigators. Inside David's digital ecosystem, confusion only deepened. An admin from his Discord and Twitch community, a group where Celeste was an active voice, wrote that no one knew she was underage or missing. They too believed she was 18 or 19, pointing to her online persona and the way she spoke about college life. Legally, the facts are stark. If Celeste was 14 and anyone in his circle engaged with her under the assumption she was 19, the statutory implications could be severe. Even without explicit accusations, the mere failure to verify her age transforms a story from tragedy into potential negligence. To make things even stranger, David has a tattoo on his finger that reads, "Shh," and Celeste had the exact same one. Although it could be a complete coincidence, it's hard to ignore a detail like that. At present, police have not named David a suspect, and no formal charge of statutory misconduct has been filed, but the questions remain corrosive. Who knew what and when? Because how could a man with resources, security, and fame not know the truth about someone in his orbit? Investigations and legal status. On the other hand, the Los Angeles Police Department has been careful with their words. According to LAPD Captain Scott M. Williams, detectives have not yet established criminal culpability beyond what he termed concealment. In a televised briefing, Williams stated plainly, "Someone placed the body in that vehicle. That act alone constitutes concealment of remains, and whoever did that is culpable." Then on September 18, 2025, that uncertainty became procedural. Detectives executed a search warrant at David's Hollywood Hills rental home, hauling away several bags of evidence, containers, hard drives, and electronics. Within days, movers arrived. By week's end, the house was empty. According to the landlord, David's management team broke the lease and settled the contract early. From a legal standpoint, that move meant nothing, but in the court of public opinion, it meant everything. Abandoning a property right after a search warrant doesn't prove guilt, but it looks like it's hiding something. That image clashed directly with what his lawyer told the press, that David was fully cooperating with authorities. When asked about that claim, Captain Williams wouldn't endorse it. He simply said he was unable to confirm whether David had actually been assisting the investigation. Meanwhile, the autopsy raised even more questions. Examiners described the remains as badly decomposed and dismembered, making it nearly impossible to determine both cause and time of death. Forensic pathologist Dr. Chad D. Cummings later noted that when a body reaches this level of decay, medical examiners often return an undetermined result, forcing prosecutors to rely on circumstantial evidence instead of biological proof. That means digital footprints, text logs, and timelines now matter more than anything that can be found under a microscope. However, the autopsy did help rule out one major rumor, that Celeste was pregnant with David's child. According to the medical report, she was not pregnant at the time of her death, effectively putting that speculation to rest. Behind the scenes, David's camp shifted into crisis mode. Within days of the warrant, he retained Blair Burke, the powerhouse defense attorney known for representing Harvey Weinstein and Lindsay Lohan. Her involvement sent a clear signal. The situation had escalated far beyond rumor. Sources close to the LAPD said that for now, any potential charges may focus on concealment or obstruction, though no formal accusations have been made. Investigators are still waiting for final forensic results. Until then, every detail remains suspended between speculation and fact, and the truth sits somewhere in between. Allegations, art, and narrative control. But beyond the legal implications of the case, there were other reasons why the entire situation felt so dark. Chief among them was his online persona. It was as though the haunting character from his songs had come disturbingly to life. At the center of it all was romantic homicide. It was the record that had launched him from a Houston teenager making lo-fi music in his sister's bedroom to an international star. But now, fans and investigators alike began replaying every lyric, every frame, every silence.
You died, and I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear.
music sounds like a crime scene. Every lyric, every note, drenched in guilt. Celeste was gone, and yet he kept performing like nothing had changed. As one person said, his entire career feels less like art and more like a confession unfolding in real time. A resurfaced interview from early 2024 made things worse. In it, David explained that much of his music and a manga he was developing was centered on a fictional alter ego named Itami, the Japanese word for pain. Itami, he said, was a detective solving murders he himself had committed. I was a detective, he explained, and there was an evil version of myself that came out at random moments. He would commit the crimes that I'd have to solve afterwards. It was an eerily specific premise, an artist haunted by his own creative double, now echoed by headlines describing a body hidden in his car. The parallels deepened when clips from his music videos resurfaced. In One More Dance, a blindfolded David stands motionless as masked figures lift a body into a trunk. In Rehab, a girl's arm is severed, the blood painted in stylized crimson. On release, these were considered aesthetic metaphors. In hindsight, they became what many called confessionals in disguise. As online sleuths combed his digital footprint, a small subset of fans unearthed Discord messages referencing a Celeste, interpreting them as hidden admissions. Others tried linking fragments of his lyrics to alleged real-world events. By mid-September, LAPD officials publicly warned the public not to equate artistic expression with evidence, stressing that no lyrical content could establish guilt. Still, the speculation had already become its own ecosystem. The attempt to regain control only worsened perception. Users on Reddit accused David of being the sole moderator of his official subreddit, where posts discussing the timeline and lyrical coincidences vanished within minutes. When those deletions were exposed, the subreddit was abruptly locked and its moderators removed entirely. What looked like damage control began to resemble censorship. Then came the confrontation with true crime TikTok creators. Accounts like Girltown posted side-by-side comparisons of his lyrics, interviews, and crime scene timelines. According to a Vice report, manager Josh Marshall went on TikTok to denounce one of the creators, a makeup artist, for spreading misinformation. It was a rare glimpse of fragility from a team otherwise locked behind press statements and NDAs. But the greatest fallout in all this happened quietly. Within days of Celeste's body being found, David's momentum of a rising global career evaporated into silence. The first visible fracture came through the live music circuit. On September 15th, 2025, ticketing platforms quietly updated the Withered World Tour page to read no upcoming concerts. The North American leg had already been underway with additional dates planned across Europe and Australia through December, including a headline slot at the Spilt Milk Festival. Each disappeared from listings overnight. Fans holding tickets received automated refund notices with no public statement attached. The corporate response was immediate and coordinated. Interscope Records, which had invested heavily in the Withered album cycle, halted all marketing activity. Internal emails confirmed that the planned deluxe edition, Withered, was indefinitely shelved. Official playlists were quietly pulled from rotation, and merchandise pages once selling a blood-stained romantic homicide shirt went offline. Brand partners followed suit. Crocs paused their limited edition shoe collaboration. Hollister, which had featured the singer in a youth-style campaign, suspended the partnership, pending further clarity. No brand wanted its logo adjacent to a minor-related death investigation. For label executives, it was less a moral choice than a mathematical one. The projected financial risk now outweighed any possible future profit. The professional isolation deepened as peers distanced themselves. Artists who once praised his songwriting quietly purged joint credits. One high-profile collaborator, a Latin pop vocalist who had featured him on her album, publicly clarified on social media that she was not his friend and was removing their track from streaming platforms. Within a week, the song vanished from Spotify and Apple Music. Even collaborators with no direct connection opted to scrub their posts. In the music industry's unwritten code, silence equals survival. Association had become reputational self-harm. But ironically, the scandal amplified his digital reach. In the week following the body's discovery, analytics from Chartmetric and Spotify for Artists showed his global streams doubled. Romantic Homicide re-entered viral charts, climbing past tracks from active tour artists. The same public horror that obliterated his sponsorships fueled consumption. Clips dissecting his lyrics flooded TikTok, and each analysis drove listeners back to the source material. This contradiction, Commercial ascent through moral downfall showed a darker truth of the modern attention economy. Scandal, no matter how grim, converts curiosity into clicks. The public wanted to hear the evidence for themselves, replaying his songs like forensic exhibits. While the internet dissected symbols, a grieving family faced reality. On September 24th, authorities released Celeste Rivas Hernandez's remains to her relatives. The following weekend, Lake Elsinore residents held a candlelight vigil near her former middle school. Friends described the teenager as someone who just wanted to be seen. Her mother thanked attendees through tears, saying, "Whatever people say online, please remember she was a child." By early October, the infrastructure surrounding David had collapsed. Tour staff were released from contracts, promotional accounts went dormant, his management company's website removed his profile entirely. Legally, he remained uncharged, but commercially, he was finished. The fame that once built him had turned off the lights. Weeks after the discovery, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner still lists Celeste Rivas Hernandez's cause and manner of death as undetermined. The toxicology results are sealed, no one has been charged, and yet the collective judgment of the internet has already rendered its verdict. Who placed her body in that car? Why did no one verify her age when she vanished into an adult world of concerts and hotel rooms? And when will the full forensic report, if ever, see public light? In the end, maybe the real tragedy isn't just what happened, but how we responded. How quickly grief became entertainment. How easily truth became aesthetic. This case remains open. The investigation continues. And so do the questions. If you followed this far, you know this story is bigger than one artist. Until the facts are clear, all we can do is wait and think carefully about how we talk about tragedy online. Share your thoughts below, but please keep it respectful. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update as this case unfolds.